Okay, let's talk about a feeling that is so common, but really hard to put your finger on. It's that quiet, internal struggle you feel after a conversation where, on the surface, everything seemed fine, but inside, something just feels off.
I mean, really think about it. You've been there, right? That little pang of awkwardness that just hits you out of nowhere. Maybe it's on the drive home or hours later when you're just trying to go to sleep.
And that's the part that's so confusing, isn't it? Because you go over it in your head, and the interaction was totally fine. It was pleasant, even. Nobody said a single mean or critical thing. So what happens next? The mental spiral begins. You start replaying every single word, every pause, just analyzing it to death, completely convinced that you must have missed something, and that somehow the problem must have been you. So let's start by just putting a name to this thing, giving it some sheep. Because believe me, it's a super common experience, and just understanding it is the very first step. See, here's the key. The discomfort isn't really coming from the other person. It's coming from inside of you. It's that feeling of being hyper-aware of yourself, almost like you're performing and critiquing your own performance in real time. And that kind of self-monitoring is exhausting, and it's exactly what leaves you feeling so weird and off balance later.
Okay, now let's look at how this internal feeling starts to take shape in the real world. Because it doesn't just stay a feeling, does it? It leads to a really specific pattern of behavior, one that you might recognize all too well.
So this basically breaks down into two main things we do. First, you've got the silence. That's when you have a thought, an opinion, and you just sort of soften it and reword it until it disappears completely. You just stay quiet to avoid any kind of friction. And then there's the yes. This is when you agree to something even when your gut is screaming no. You just ignore your own truth to keep things smooth. Both are about the same thing, really, staying safe.
And this is the question that just haunts you afterwards, right? You know you had something to say, or you know you felt that hesitation. So why is that impulse to shrink or to just please everyone so incredibly powerful in the moment?
Well, this brings us to the most important part of this whole thing. We're about to get to the real reason behind this pattern, and I'm going to bet it's not what you think it is.
Just let that sink in for a second. All of that energy, all that worry you spend on what they might think, what their judgment might be, it's all misdirected. The real root of this fear is somewhere else entirely.
Here it is. This is the heart of it. The fear isn't just that someone might not like what you said. The real deep down fear is that their reaction is going to prove that a secret, awful thing you believe about yourself is actually true. These right here, these are the core fears we're all trying to protect. You stay quiet because you're terrified the reaction will confirm that you're just too much. You say yes when you really mean no because you're afraid they'll think you're difficult. You see, it's not actually about managing them. It's about desperately trying to manage your own deepest insecurities. So, if that's the problem, what in the world is the solution? This is where things can start to change. Let's look at how you can begin to choose a new, more authentic response, even when it feels absolutely terrifying. This maps out that internal battle perfectly. That first instinct to just shrink is going to be fast and powerful. The real magic, the real breakthrough, happens in that tiny little space at step 2, the pause. And notice, you don't have to be brave yet. You just have to not disappear. That's it. From that pause, you can feel the fear, you can acknowledge it, and then you can make a different choice. And you know, sometimes that huge, brave choice sounds this simple. It doesn't have to be some big, dramatic confrontation. It can be a quiet, firm course correction. Just a small sentence that takes back your own story in that moment. Oh, and this is so important to remember. When you've spent years practicing self-censoring, speaking your mind is going to feel alien. It's going to be uncomfortable. Your body might even tell you that you're doing something dangerous. But that discomfort, that's not a sign you're wrong. That's a sign you're rewiring an old pattern. That feeling is growth. All right, finally, let's talk about the end goal here. Because the whole point of this work isn't what most people think it is. It's actually something much more compassionate and way more realistic. And this, right here, is the ultimate takeaway. The fear, it might always show up. It's a part of being human. The goal isn't to somehow become a fearless robot.
The goal is to become someone who no longer abandons themselves the second that fear shows up. It's about learning how to stay present with yourself, even when your heart is pounding.
So we'll leave you with this final thought to chew on. Caring what other people think is normal. It's what connects us as humans. The problem was never the caring. The problem is when that caring causes you to completely lose sight of who you are. The real goal is to learn how to hold both at the same time, a deep care for others and an unbreakable commitment to yourself.